Well, judging by now, it's out over that small wood at the end of the runway. It was moving out of there earlier on. Well, I'd like to thank him for his attention and bear him with us. It's worth it when he comes back. Keith was just saying he's getting rather tired as well at the minute. Can you imagine this bird's been flying for what, 20 minutes now in this heat or whatever? It's like doing a marathon or whatever. It only actually weighs about 1 pound, 2 ounces, something like that.
This blade passes through the gap between them. Frenchman called Roland Garros fixed some deflector plates to the propeller, and they sort of batted away any bullets which hit the blade. But as the two replicas taxi away for takeoff, getting airborne, is another German biplane of a slightly later era, the Hooker Youngman, a two-seat trainer or sporting aircraft, but this afternoon carrying Spanish Air Force mark. And we shall see this rather confusing situation on a number of aeroplanes built by one nation carrying another's mark. Here, these little replicas, the originals without wheel brakes, relying on the tail skids to dig into the grass and slow them down on landing, had to be manhandled. Very often in high winds it needed three people to get the aircraft taxiing. Pilot in the cockpit and a man at each wingtip to prevent the whole shebang being blown over. And there goes the Eindecker replica, the Fokker, one winger, the Eindecker, airborne in a very few feet. Wheels still spinning. This is 80 horsepower engine pulling the aircraft through the air. Behind it comes its natural enemy, the Moran bullet. Down to probably about 80 or 90 miles an hour. Quite a difference. That's the Type N or bullet being flown by Stan Hodgkinson. Stan's full-time job is flying various aircraft for the Martin Bates Company, a company which produces incredible ejector seats which have saved thousands of lives since their first use just at the end of World War II. Continental flat 4-cylinder engine. Even though it does have that big round engine cowling, it makes it look as though it's got a rotary engine whizzing round each side. And the same, of course, goes for the Eindecker. And the circular engine cowling served throughout World War II with the Luftwaffe as a basic trainer, very similar to the British Tiger Moth and the American Stearman. Stearman A-17 there, Mark Hanna looping this little aeroplane to the Luftwaffe built many thousands of pilots earning their wings on this type of aeroplane. The aeroplane was such a success that it was also built under license in Czechoslovakia, in Switzerland, and in Spain. The last of being built as recently as 1956. Certainly during the early 1970s, and there was Mark Hanna rolling the young man. Wet wings, a very clean undercarriage. I was saying in the early 1970s, the Spanish Air Force retired a lot of their young men, and they were imported into the United Kingdom. 535 horsepower. There's Mark Hanna pointing where he's going. The aircraft slid along sideways. And a point which I think perhaps I failed to mention with the two replicas, that they were monoplanes. It's almost a retrograde step back biplane configuration, as so many aircraft did. Moving against the right with a wing waggle there, Mark Hanna, the aircraft tipping from one wing to the other. The wingspan children's tent, will you collect them there? And also Haley Austin, I think it is Haley Austin. He or she is also at the children's tent behind control tower. And now, moving forward, we come to the German Fieseler Storch, an amazing aeroplane which seems to defy gravity, and if you just look at the wings, you'll see the reason why. The whole, the leading edge, the front edge, has a long slant front which opens and enables the air to cling, as it were, very closely to the wing. And on the trailing edge, the back edge, the flap provides additional lift. And this aeroplane was designed in 90 cases, getting in and out of small airfields, and here it is, the side slips along. Designed by a man called Reinhold Hughes, and while initially it was unarmed, later on they did stick a machine gun in the rear of the fuselage. It was used for ambulance aircraft and for flying high-ranking Luftwaffe staff to meetings around the Reich and on the battlefield. Now, to be perfectly honest with you, and that's what I want to be all the afternoon, this aeroplane, although it is a Fieseler Storch, German aircraft, it was built in France about 1950 by the Moran Company and has a Jacobs 7-cylinder radial engine, and they're demonstrating just how slowly it can fly. About 60 miles an hour, if that. The RAF 500. And it was formed from a French gliding school in 1968 and brought over to this country, and it was used in every theatre of operation, on floats and on skis, and it was used for rescuing Mussolini from Allied imprisonment on the top of a mountain in Italy. He landed one of these aircraft and opened the door, as it were, for other German troops to come in and free the Italian dictator. Now, Storch means a stork, but don't worry, girls. This aeroplane is not bringing any youngsters this afternoon. aeroplanes is also used by the Royal Air Force to fly King George VI and Winston Churchill. From our left, the Fieseler Storch, the reconnaissance aircraft. There, side slipping along the runway. And that very long bruiser of an aeroplane, able to carry a big torpedo inside the fuselage, being flown for us this afternoon by Alan Walker. War II aircraft. This is the Vought Corsair, the bent wing bird as it was called, a naval fighter. This aeroplane being flown for us this afternoon by Rolf Meehan, by the Royal New Zealand Air Force, and built not by the Vought Company but by Goodyear. And now another fighter from World War II, this time one of the enemy, the Japanese Zero, the dreaded Zero fighter which caused such havoc for the first 6 or 8 months of the Pacific War. To look very much like the Zero, but now diving down in a simulated torpedo attack, Alan Walker in the big Avenger, the torpedo-carrying bomber, moving in quite fast at a top speed of 270 miles an hour. As I say, able to Barbara, the name of his wife. Here, again, moving in to the left, Alan Walker in the old Flying Machine Company's Avenger. And it is almost 49 years, it is almost 50 years to the day of them were built for use by the United States Navy, by the Royal Navy, and 7 other countries. Here he comes with bomb doors open, torpedo bay doors open. There. Now I said the airplane had a top speed of about 270 miles an hour and 1,900 horsepower engine, pulling it along here. See there the way the wheels, the undercarriage, retracts outwards and is very neatly housed in the wing. Wings incidentally folded so that the aircraft could be snug down in carrier's deck. But here is the Zero replica, and being flown by Lee Proudfoot, known as Hoof Jr., and look at the big smoke ring with the Avenger apparently going through the middle of it. And here a scene which I'm sure was enacted many times during the Pacific War, the Avenger being checked on empty and when loaded with guns and ammunition and piloted fuel, just 2.5 tons, which was a good deal less than the weight of the Avenger, which was 8 tons. There we can see young Lee Proudfoot rolling the aircraft inverted. Alan Walker film Tora, which many of you I'm sure will have seen. But here they come, ladies and gentlemen, the Avenger versus Zero. Zeros flew way back in March 1939, and one of its adversaries was this big battling Corsair, the bent wing bird. Why were its wings bent? Well, by bending the wings down and away from the fuselage, putting the undercarriage at the bottom bit, as it were, in the knuckle, you produce a very short undercarriage which could be tucked up inside the aeroplane. Corsair in US Navy markings, being flown by Ralph Neal, and it's 2,000 horsepower Pratt & Whitney twin wasp, 87,000 feet, 7 miles high, and it too quite heavily armed with 6 half-inch machine guns. But moving in again from your right, the Avenger, with Zero hot on its tail, and over the top the Corsair, coming in for the collapse and too dangerous an aeroplane to fly off carriers, but they very soon changed their mind. Really was a tremendous aircraft. Corsair was used by the US Navy, as we said, the Royal New Zealand Air Force, and the Royal Navy. Operate Lee Proudfoot in the Zero, coming back down the runway and banking up, showing us the wing shape, the Corsair behind. There the Japanese and there the Corsair got it. See a hit there on the Zero, and way to our right the Avenger rolling out down the runway while the smoke streaming Zero, as though the fire extinguisher system has worked and the fire is out. And the Zero pilot lives to fight another day with his highly maneuverable aeroplane. But now, diving down, this really is a pugnacious looking and a militant sounding aeroplane. Weighs 2¼ tons, fully loaded. Now moving in again from your left, going up once again. There the hesitation roll, the aircraft, or a barrel roll with hesitation, is the price of one, with the little turbo Islander, Britain-Norman Islander, now operated by the Swiss Pilatus Company. Scarlet aeroplane, a little 6-8-seater transport aircraft, carrying along the members of the Army Parachute Display Team. Very shortly we shall see them step out of this aircraft to open their display. But our attention now to the front, where the Submarine Spitfire 9 of the old Flying Machine Company, being flown for us today by John Farley. John Farley, retired from his last career as a test pilot in the British Aerospace flying Harrier jets, and down the runway shows the implacable enemy of the Spitfire. This, despite its, and called the Bucon, but here the unmistakable elliptical wing of the improbable Spitfire, described as the most beautiful fighter ever. I don't think anyone of us here will argue with that. And here's John Farley bringing the Spitfire in from our left. 600 of this type of Spitfire marked up now from the left, fast and low, the Messerschmitt 109 going up in the hands of Ray Hanna. Ray Hanna, ex-leader of the Red Arrows and a very experienced Royal Air Force pilot. Here we have a father and son team flying for us today. Son Mark we've already seen in the yoke, but the father in the Messerschmitt 109. War. Road was Berlin became available for them, and here we the Messerschmitt 109. This aeroplane of the Messerschmitt 109. Something to be respected in the skies. The black and white spinner catching the eye, showing the rapidly spin Mark 9. Spitfire 9 first went into service in July 1942 with number 64. There, the Messerschmitt stealing onto the scene again. Ray Hanna following him round. Was burning 1,700 horsepower. Gave the Spitfire a top speed of 415 miles an hour. Spitfire at 3 tons, just a little bit heavier than the Messerschmitt. The Messerschmitt 109 desperately trying to escape the fire from the two 20mm cannons which you can see protruding from the leading edge of the Spitfire's wing. As I said, the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight. Hurricane nearer to us with the Spitfire on the far side. Lancaster being flown for us this afternoon by the recently appointed new captain of the flight, squadron leader Andy Hare, who only took post 4 days ago. Spitfire 5B. About 18 months younger than the Spitfire 9, which we saw earlier, but it's the same unmistakable shape. Thrashed this aeroplane along at some 365 miles an hour. Weighed about 3 tons. There we see in front of the aircraft. And that's how close pilots had to get to ensure a hit. Very different in construction. These vertical takeoff fighters here, being flown by Group Captain Spink, who is the station commander of RAF Alconbury, where the flight is based. Big radiator under the fuselage. Pulling round in a very tight turn. operational. A thicker wing, and once again. The Hawker Hurricane. One of the only handful of airworthy Hurricanes still flying today. Here in the hands of a serving Royal Air Force pilot. They're the latest of many thousands of unnecessary stress of a victory roll could easily have caused fatal damage to the structure and the crew. But here, creeping in quietly from our right, the Avro Lancaster Indian Link. By the French and the Dutch and the Belgians and all other occupied countries. Coming in now from our left front with bomb doors open. The Avro Lancaster being flown by squadron leader Andy Tomlin and his crew. Only two airworthy Lancasters still flying, one in Canada and the one we see in front of us here this afternoon. And it was built by Vickers Armstrong at Chester. 156,000 individual sorties were made with Lancasters. Here, with undercarriage down and the crew all watching us, I'm sure. Lancaster with the Hurricane, the Humpty-back one, and the Spitfire on the Ranthambridge Memorial Flight. Classic big formation as designed for photographs again. The Lancaster, the Hurricane, the Spitfire of the Royal Air Force Battle of Britain Memorial Flight. We salute you. There, 6 Rolls-Royce Merlin acting almost as one. Mustang, 51 North American Mustang. In the days of the war. And 15,500 of these Mustangs were built, but getting airborne, a shape we learned to know and love very well, the Boeing Flying Fortress, the B-17, which carries the name, coming round from our right. Gun turrets it has, and behind it, its natural escort, the Mustangs. And the Fortress being flown for us by Keith Sissons. Keith has many hundreds of hours flying multi-engined aircraft. In the most recent years, flying the big short Belfast transports for heavy lift company. 2 in its chin, 1 in its nose, 1 on top of the fuselage, 2 on each side of the fuselage, a couple in the ventral ball turret, and 2 more in the tail. Sally B, Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress. Journalists into the arena, back onto the centre line. And there, the undercarriage down. Bombay doors open. Sally B in a tight turn round almost inside the airfield boundary. And here she comes. Lights twinkling, undercarriage and Bombay doors dangling. Sally B, the B-17 Flying Fortress. The 1950s and 60s era opens, but not before a final appearance of the 2 Mustangs. Ordered into production in very large numbers, as I said, some 15,500, of which some 1,500, I think, were used by the Royal Air Force. There, Rodney, Speedy, Brian Smith, Mustang. And moving through the sky as if they're really on business then. Large radiator underneath, rather like the Avenger. Still speed in the dive. And getting airborne. Driving this Jaguar along, smoking a little as the top comes on, and there, long. Here comes 80% of the speed of sound, the Jaguar. Jaguars were slow speed run with the undercarriage and flaps and air brakes out at about 130 miles an hour. Nose cocked up, slow the aircraft. On the front of the engine. giving us a tight turn. At over 300 miles an hour, squashing that aircraft around. Aircraft rolling under. The aircraft cocked up to present as big a surface to the airflow as possible. Here I think he's rolling out, possibly to clear the runway for the next aircraft. This aeroplane is display. And getting airborne. The first jet bomber. This is the way here. The General Dynamics F-11.
As they deploy the main canopies, which are born from the United States,
I have a policeman.
team is made up of 26 people, 2 of which are attached from outside units. We have 1 member from the Royal Military Police, another member who's a woman from the WRAC 10 Company at Aldershot. She has approximately 1,000 jumps to her credit. First one down today, this is Lance Corporal Jason Grime. He's first year on the team and has about 400 jumps. Carrying the regimental flag of the Parachute Regiment. Corporal Semelo. Carrying the Red Devils flag. Flying stars and stripes, Corporal Dyer. If you look above, this is what we call canopy relative work, whereas all floor military training at RAF Bryce Norton, we are told to get away from each other to make formations. On the bottom is the woman of the team, Private Debbie Ingle. The 2 men on top are the ones who steer it, and obviously she has to hang on the bottom and go where they take her. Start mentioning Ian Christie, who's now making his way out on the lineup. First one out, the attachments to the team. Ladies and gentlemen, Parachute Regiment Free Fall Team, the Red Devils.
On the Lockheed P-80 Shooting Star, the first United States jet fighter. And in fact, this one, as I said, was built by the Canadair Company in February 1954. This aeroplane, a 2-seater, gliding this aeroplane through the sky. Of some 600 miles an hour. Very sleek looking aircraft. jets, each of 7,500 pounds thrust. The camera. Top speed of the Canberra in its bomber roll up at 45,000 feet, nearly 6 branch, and the aircraft used for radar and other trials. And if you look closely at the nose, you'll see all sorts of little warts and pimples which are holding various sensors used in the software. There the raspberry ripple finish, the red, white and blue. And along the ride this afternoon, but normally he would be checking on equipment manufactured by his company. Here now, the Canberra, 64-foot wingspan, well, more than half an inch, and an all-up weight of about 55,000 pounds. About 200 miles an hour. There the Canberra, illustrating its manoeuvrability, its tight turn, 360 degrees, right around the clock. Standing by the blue touch paper over there. The aircraft coming in for a simulated attack on a ground target. There are sticker bombs down the side of the runway. The reconnaissance airplane, able to carry torpedoes, depth charges, with a host of radar equipment. It is an anti-submarine airplane, able to detect submarines below the surface, and a very high subsonic speed, and able to cruise at near 500 miles an hour. But now the airplane coming in from your left with the weapons bay door open. And it's interesting to compare the size of that weapons bay with that of the They're requiring no less than 13 people to fly it. But round once again, the undercarriage down, and flaps. Regularly flies on patrol over the eastern Atlantic, the English Channel, and up over the Arctic Sea. There with all 70 million of its candles lit and undercarriage and flaps, the aircraft making a flyby. reconnaissance aircraft is based on the C-135, the transport troop carrying aircraft. There we see the wicks being turned up a bit in the four big turbofan engines. Some 65,000 pounds of thrust, 32 tons of thrust driving this aeroplane along. There, undercarriage down. Climbing to lose a bit of speed. Is it 3 wheels uphill? Another one. But now, on the approach from the right-hand end, the Jetstream Mark 1 multi-engined trainer from number 6 Flying Training School at RAF Alconbury in Yorkshire, and the aeroplane being flown by 37-year-old Flight Lieutenant Steve Wiles. A 970 horsepower turboprop engine. Turboprop being something like a jet engine with a propeller on the front. All the power going to turn the propeller. There. Yeah. Then turning sharply right hand. A glide descent. Bottom back. There's the dirty slide. Work the aircraft not all tiny and clean with the Tucano. Now this is a Brazilian aeroplane designed by the Embraer company in Brazil, and has a propeller turbine engine like the Jetstream. This aircraft won the competition. Comes the Strike Command Hawk. An advanced trainer in the grey Hawk. Here, 8-point hesitation roll. Hesitating, 8-point. Multi-engine aircraft. There the aircraft. another display, the RAF Jaguar. Lost children tent where your children are awaiting you. That's parents of Danny Hoffman, Buttus Hoffman, and two of the lost children. Now, something different, the Westland Seeking Royal Air Force Search and Rescue Aircraft, which is one of the 4 or 5 bases around the United Kingdom where seeking helicopters are based as part of the United Kingdom search and rescue system. The aircraft being flown by Flight Lieutenant Merv Cantor and Warrant Officer Dave Allen. Widely exported in 12 countries around the world. And you can see on top the dome, a simple shaped dome, housing radar and the aircraft search for people in distress at sea, mountain walkers, rock climbers, and these aircraft work very closely with lifeboats and Coast Guard. The aircraft being hauled stock. They're bowing to the guest enclosure. Tucano, and here right on cue, the Brazilian Tucano or Tucano advanced trainer for the Royal Air Force. The government opted to change policy aimed at reducing expenditure, and there, 4-point hesitation, the aircraft stopping at each 90 degrees around the circle. The Tucano, in this high visibility, all the thrust leads off, the big bootful of rudder, Isaac Newton gets a hold and the aircraft comes down. And up. There, big roll. The aircraft hauled round in a 360-degree turn. Tucano being used by a number of air forces, but for use by the Royal Air Force, the original engine was replaced with one very much more powerful and a 4-blade or -3G in the negative. There the aircraft half rolling before being hauled round. Weighs 3¼ ton. And a top speed of 320 miles per hour. British orientation, the wings were straightened. There. Skew roll. Quite a barrel roll. The undercarriage popped down. The General Dynamics FLF, the tactical strike fighter, the aeroplane which can be redesigned in flight. No. Power coming on to burst the smoke along the slow road. I think, with the air brake extended. Big barn door sticking down under the fuselage, slowing the aircraft. Now, retracted, undercarriage, out.
Those two are just taxis.
And here. Having delivered its load of ordnance, the Corsair II, carrier fighter of the Portuguese Air Force. Corsair 2, the second air. Over the top, roll down, complete the figure of 8. Here a maximum rate 303 turn circle. Front of us. This aeroplane weighing about 20 tons. Condensation trails streaming off the wingtips. These airplanes flew back in September 1965. So it's a 26-year-old design. 1 year later, it was in service with the US Navy and served in Vietnam. About 1,100 of them have been built. Here with no and now half rolling out. Captain, the fader, sets the aircraft up for knife edge pass. Where does the lift come from? Now the fuselage acting like a wing, providing lift. speeding up into the sky. Here in a hectic tail chase. Roll and gyre and gimbal. Almost tied together there. We see the dead wingtip coming through, I think, on a slow flyby. Opportunity for photographs. Nose cocked up. And we can see the big air intake for the engine, shark-like underneath. There goes here, the hectic tail chase. Now what to do? Lining up on the runway, center line, display. Smoke coming off, four on the ground, the aircraft. Gather speed. That's the right turn, the aircraft climbing. Climbing turn. Never seem to know where it is. As the deloading comes on the air specs, but rapidly growing in size and low down. The F-16 fighting foam. Airport operation. Here we see counting down the runway on the glider, almost power glider, Lockheed T-33. The Dragon Lady is spooled up. These airplanes have been based at Alconbury since February 1983. And there goes this line of the sky. You can see the wings lifting. Big black aeroplane coming being on the starvation diet, flying very, very steeply up off the Alconbury runway. This air tactical reconnaissance variant. So, the spy in the sky gets on with his job of finding out what it's like on the other side of the hill. We call the parents of Benjamin Digos, who is aged 11, well, the parents of Benjamin Digos. Please go to the children's tent where you can. Captain Steve Womack.
We'll wait for the CR1 to go fly by and pass from left to right.
staying. Didn't want to be disturbed.
He wants to be alone.
Yeah. He does it anyway.
There is a state cannon, age 8, as children marching down to return to the leader over there.
good afternoon. I'm Captain Steve Wallander from the 36th Tactical Fighter Wing at Bitburg Air Base, Germany. It appears we're ready for the F-15 as the Operation Desert Storm. In 1,000 hours, the F-15 Eagle. Stops. As he approaches from the right, he will perform a high G turn and will experience more than 8 times the force of gravity. During this pass, the aircraft will be rolled from side to side to demonstrate the F-15's slow-speed handling characteristics. Demonstrates the F-15's record-setting vertical climb capability. He is entering at a speed less than 1/3 as fast as the Eagle is capable of flying. The cockpit design of the F-15 provides the pilot superb visibility. The advanced radar serves as the eyes of the Eagle and extends far beyond the pilot's visual range. Major Turner is now approaching for his final maneuver, a tactical pitch-up to landing. He will pass by at 500 feet and make a rolling pitch up to the downwind leg of the traffic pattern. Arena, under any conditions, anywhere in the world. In Desert Storm combat operations, the F-15 again proved itself as an air superiority fighter. The Eagle was credited with 39 of the 43 coalition aerial combat victories without suffering a single loss. Worldwide, the Eagle remains undefeated in aerial combat. On behalf of General Oakes, the commander of the United States Air Forces in Europe, I hope you've enjoyed this brief look at the capabilities of the F-15 Eagle.
C-130 Talon variant, which will be involved in the rescue of the downed pilots in flight. A variable geometry strike aircraft in which the pilots can again vary the sweep of the wings to suit the flight regime. Swept fully back for high-speed flight, forward for slow speed, as does this F-111, the Aardvark. They're quite a heavy aeroplane. An aeroplane which carries a great amount of complex, sophisticated electric. Now, getting airborne, the RAF Tornado GR1. You see the aircraft having taken off with its wings swept fully forward. And up once again. And there the wings have been fully swept. You see how the aircraft has been redesigned and changed in shape, that it produces now the wings move forward again as the aircraft goes up into the Tornado. Which I understand is the unit which will be coming to Alconbury next year. And this aeroplane will be dropping a special pack of retrieval equipment. Now, whether it will do so on this run or not, we're not sure, but we'll just wait to see. Captain Lou Evans, Major Lou Evans, bringing this Combat Talon Hercules along with the ramp at the back open. And out goes the survival kit. Now the aircraft, while it is a special airplane, is in standard camouflage and in a region of some 10,000 feet, allowing the team to do its full demonstration of the art of free fall. As the team exits, you will notice they will split into 3 groups and reform. Remember, on this initial drop from the Andover, they will be reaching speeds of some 120 miles per hour. Keep our eyes
to the sky. Those of you on the extreme edges of the crowd, if you look towards the centre of the airfield, virtually directly over the tower now, is the Andover. Final preparations have been made. You probably saw the helium balloons being released during the afternoon to calculate wind speed, direction, etc. And today is a very ideal day for a good high-level drop. So we keep tracking now the aircraft, looking skyward, and in fact, if the team exits on this pass, we'll probably see them leave the aircraft in some 20 to 30 seconds from now. Remember, in this final stage of preparation for the jump, tension is very high in the aircraft. There's the team, they have left the Andover. You will notice that they will split into two outside stacks of 4 and a centre group of 3. Dropping now through a full 1 minute or so of free fall. Remember, speeds now 120 miles an hour. The two outer groups closing towards one another now. Some speed in excess of 200 miles an hour. For those of you with cameras here today, this is an excellent opportunity to really get some superb photographs of the team in action. Canopies now deployed. The team will begin to line itself up under the direction of the team coach, Flight Sergeant Phil Kelly formation. But there are the Falcons showing that this sort of precision is possible with just the art and the skillful use of a parachute canopy. Whilst all this is going on, of course, a tremendous amount of responsibility resting with the team coach, Flight Sergeant Phil Kelly, who has to keep his eyes on those two crosses and the white smoke all the time to ensure that not only he, but the rest of the team are in an accurate position to make a very pinpoint landing down in front of the crowd in the drop zone area. Now the team will be beginning to line up to prepare itself for the final descent into the arena. Team now lining itself up, and all eyes now on the drop zone, on the crosses, and I'm sure you would like to give your encouragement as they reach the drop zone to see just how close they come to the crosses as they make their final descent into the arena. At this point in time, of course, sometimes turbulence from the ground and the other canopies can throw the parachutists around considerable, so now all the jumpers will be concentrating very hard on this final manoeuvre to bring them into the area. First down, Flight Sergeant Phil Kelly. For precision timing, today's escort aircraft, the Andover, flown by Flight Lieutenant Pete Azzaro from 115 Squadron at RAF Benson, prepares to run in from the right to the left. And we can see now it moving in along the runway to make its final tribute to you, ladies and gentlemen, and to the United States Air Force. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for a superb display by the 1991 Royal Air Force parachute display.
Will be dragged off the ground in his special suit and will be hauled into the aeroplane by a special winch and a grapnel method.
Missed him!
Now, it
Have to do it again.
simple. This could be in virtually a jungle clearing or in a narrow path in the mountain. All is ready because the balloon is being raised, and we see it rather like the barrage balloons which we saw in this country during World War II. It has stabilizing fins on it so that it points into wind, and the long rope is paid out by the unfortunate pilot on the ground. The combat Talon Hercules pilot, away to our right, still orbiting, probably under the protection of the Eagle aircraft. There goes the balloon, and it's interesting to see how it turns to point into wind, and it shows how much wind veers and backs. Markers on the line, on the braided nylon rope, and the pilot sitting in his suit, no doubt with a dry throat and damp palms, waiting for the aircraft to come in and snatch him into the air. And now Major Lou Evans with all his crew aboard will be lining up their sights, concentrating every nerve and muscle into snapping up that line with the scissors-like attachment to the nose of the aircraft. This rescue system can lift 1 or 2 men. We'll see whether the aircraft scores a bullseye. There it comes. Nose is punctured. They're trailing behind is the grapnel, which would have been lowered to capture the line. Now, I understand that there is always a fallback situation, belt and braces operation, as there is the second balloon. Now the aircraft coming around again. Will not win any beauty contest. Ugly it is, but effective it is too. It's designed as a low-level ground support, ground attack aircraft, sort of aeroplane that can eat enemy tanks for breakfast. Got an enormous 7-barrel gun which fires up to 4,000 rounds a minute in the nose and up the strong side. 2 fins and rudders, those are the upright parts of the tail, hide the hot exhaust gases from the engine so that heat-seeking missiles are full. The aircraft is the A-10. Responds to the control movement very rapidly. As it spends most of its operational life down among the daisies and in and out around the trees, being able to fire, the aeroplane is very ruggedly constructed, and all in all, it is a first-class anti-armor weapon. Here, coming in from your right, the Republic fly slowly at low level, looking for ground targets, and then accelerate the target. They're going up. Very functional shape, square wings, long fuselage. Diving inverted and